This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. So on today's show, I'll be joined by Galway U20 football manager Kevin Johnson. Kevin will talk about the role and his hopes for 2026 with the Galway Under-20 football team, and talk about his management team as well. And we'll also go on to have a look back at the preliminary quarter-finals in senior and intermediate, the relegation semi-finals in senior football, and then in intermediate the relegation semi-finals were called off, so they didn't take place over the weekend. Before we do that, I'm going to bring listeners my latest edition of the power rankings. So when it comes first to the senior football championship power rankings, they are as follows. Salthill Knocknacarra in first place, obviously advanced straight through to the quarterfinals, so they remain in first place. It's similar. Caherlistrane in second place, they advanced straight to the quarterfinal as well. Moycullen third, who advanced straight to the quarterfinal, and then Tuam in number four, the team that advanced straight to the quarterfinal as well. Fifth, St. James is up 2 places. Really impressed with their performance against Milltown. Lots of impressive performers. Joanna Quilligan, Jack Nolan, Daniel McNulty in attack, Jack O'Neill, Paul Conroy then around the middle. The one worry for St. James's will be that injury to Sam O'Neill. They'll hope to have him back, but even if you're looking at that half-back line of with Dale Masterson, Johnny Duane coming back in, Owen Finnerty in the corner, along with Jack Fole and Carl O'Regan, they're really starting to build an impressive team now, and I think they will possibly think that they can cause an upset now in this quarter final against Salthill Knocknacarra, but impressive really from them against Milltown at the weekend. Sixth, down 1 place, is Dunmore MacHales, and the reason for this is just the manner of them conceding the 4 goals. I think it will be a worry for them heading in now to play the county champions Caherlistrane, because if they do afford Caherlistrane the opportunities they afforded Letchmore in that first half, I think they'll be in big trouble. But the big positive for Dunmore MacHales is they found a way when they looked dead and buried in that game, and they showed huge character to get through that one. So they'll be happy that they came back from being looked dead and buried, and to grind it out in extra time by 2 points in the end and into the quarterfinals for them for the second year running. Seventh place, Uachtarard up 1 place. Uachtarard really finding the habit of winning late this year. They did the same against Montbellion as they did against Clare Galway. Matthew Tierney's penalty, huge there for Uachtarard, but they're back in a quarterfinal again, and it's a repeat of last year's quarterfinal where they came up short at Moycullen, so they'll be looking to go one better this year. Then in 8th place, up 2 places, Killannon, the comeback kings this year really. You consider the first game against James's where they came back really late after trailing early on, but to come back by being down by 11 points against Montbellion it really shows a lot about the spirit Killannon have in them this year. But the one thing I would say is they can't really afford to do that now when they play Tuam Stars, but they're in the last 8 and they'll be very, very happy, because when it said 112 to 1-1 in favour of Montbellion I don't think there's many people that thought Killannon could quite turn that around. But Johnny Heaney, Dara Walsh, Enda Kelly in attack, really, really impressive, and they're really starting to build on that 19 success from a couple of years ago. And then in 9th place, down 3 places, Milltown. Ever really since that draw with Caherlistrane, Milltown probably haven't been able to hit the same levels. They drew at Monivea Abbey, and even the last day against St. James is only going up 8-6 at the break. It was disappointing really when you have that breeze in Tuam Stadium. They needed to be further ahead, and they just couldn't really match James's in that second half. They kicked 8, they finished with 111. The penalty came late on, so 1-2. That's all they could afford to get in the second half. But they will be disappointed with that performance. But overall, like, still so many not stalwarts, but experienced players were really impressive campaigns. Mike Martin once again having a great campaign. James Kavanagh around the middle too, and even Carl Blake being introduced along now with young talent coming next year as well from the two Galway minors they had. So there'll be significant boosts. Both of those players be able to play senior then next year. 10th place, Leicester Moore up two places, and the reason they're up two places is because they put Dunmore MacHales. They really gave, I suppose, Dunmore MacHales a huge challenge, and they put them to the pin of their collar. And Alan Murphy would be disappointed, but when you consider it's year one, they got so close to Dunmore MacHales, just couldn't make the quarter final. But I think there's no reason why Leicester Moore can't push on next year. 11th place, Montpellier down one place, and they'll be really disappointed considering up by 11 points against Killannon. And I know there's a breeze, but still to be in that position of up by 11 points and with a team of Montpellier my loss experience, they'll be disappointed. But that free against that Barry McHugh didn't get, they'll be disappointed with that one. Clare Galway, they're down one place, but a positive year when you consider the players. Clare Galway lost at the start of the year, the change of management throughout the year, and they really gave Victoria a big battle. And they'll probably be frustrated with that Matthew Tierney penalty. They probably feel it wasn't a penalty there. 13th, Monavea Abbey remain in 13th, and 4-3 on penalties against Berna. They survive, and in the last two games, we've really seen what Monavea Abbey can do. And the big challenge now for Monavea Abbey is to probably get consistent at this level every day they go out. Because if you look back to the first day, 420 to 10 points against Caherlistrane, that probably did disappoint them. But since then, it's been a upward trajectory from round two to round three to the relegation semi-final, and they remain senior. Anna down 14 to up two places. Just Damien Comer's influence back on this team, kicking 5 points. Frankie Burke with 8 points. When Anna Down trailed 110 to 6, I'd say a lot of people thought Michaels were going to hang on in this one, just considering the patterns of Anna Down's games. But they really showed character to dig this one out, and they remain senior. 15th, Barnet down one place. Look, there's nothing else you can say about Barnet other than just complete heartbreak for Barnet, particularly after losing a penalty shootout like that. And Michaels, they are in 16th for them. Look, as I said, they were up by 7 points, so I think that will disappoint Michaels that they weren't able to hang on there. If we look at the Football Championship power rankings, so we'll take a look at them now. So in first place, St. Brendan's got straight through to the quarter final. I do think the big challenge now for St. Brendan's will be to not pick up injuries, because they're probably one of the highest amount of players that they have playing both football and hurling, and they're competing at both, and they could go really far in both. So they'll just be looking not to pick up any injuries whatsoever there. Second place, Caltra. Impressive professional performance against Micheál Brannocks at the weekend, and since that Kilkerran defeat, they're improving every game, and Gabriel Naughton will have to be happy with the way his side have bounced back since that opening round defeat. Then in third place, Cortin Shamrocks, they are up three places, and I think Cortin Shamrocks are a real dark horse for this competition, particularly when you consider the experience in attack. You look Joey Donnellan, Adrian Verley, Cathal Mulrine, and then you throw in a young player like Luke Dempsey, who's had an impressive campaign. So I think if Corte Chamas can keep all their team on the pitch, there's no reason why they can't go far in this championship. Fourth place on Spidale, down two places. I just think France they just need to get everyone back on the pitch for this quarter final. Fifth place, Kilkerran Clonberne. I know they topped the group, and a few people will be looking here and saying, why are they fifth place? But I just think for Kilkerran, they weren't here last year in the quarterfinals, and the 4 week break I think could come against them. I'm not saying it will, but it's just a challenge for them. Sixth place to Illinois as well. It'll just be interesting there with the 4 week break as well for Illinois, because those were two clubs that had real momentum. So you'd just be wondering, could that momentum stop now as since I haven't played in such a long time. Seventh, Kirkfin B, 618, no more said really than this. And there's real potential for Kirkfin B here to have a proper tilt at this intermediate championship. Caherlistrane, it's difficult campaign, group campaign was difficult for them, is what I mean to say there, but they recovered excellently, dropped three places and in to eighth place there. Big win for them over Kilconly. 2 point win in the end. They got Alan Morris back on the pitch, which is a big boost in attack, and they'll be looking to push on and cause another upset now against Brendan's. Uh, Ninth, Michael Brannock's down two places. They will be disappointed with the culture game there. They would have felt like it was an opportunity for themselves to push on there, but just coming up short. Kilconly 10th, down six places. I think they'll probably be the most disappointed team of the lot over the weekend. Kicking 1-4, it was never really going to win them any game. I know conditions were difficult over the weekend, but obviously losing Paul Mannion to two yellows and then Niall Daly going off injured, it didn't help their cause. 11th, Menla, down two places, defeated by Court and Shamrocks. 12th, Glenamaddy. Heavy defeat for them against Kerfin B at the weekend, conceding 6-18. And then 13th, Ormond Murray, 14th, Clifton, 15th, Ongarua, and 16th, Gabriel's there. So that's the Intermediate Football Championship power rankings. Those intermediate football championship relegation semi-finals will yet to take place. Obviously, they were put off at the weekend just due to unplayable pitches in the Prairie and Clannan. Just looking at the junior football championship, then Castle 2-7, Ní Pork on Arc, Clonbur 12 points, and Father Griffin's Aero 4-10, Renville 2-7. So the way the West Sport Championship goes there now is Father Griffin's Aero straight into the West Sport final, and Carnacashel and Ní Pork on our Clonbur, they will meet in the Westboard semi-final, and it's a home semi-final there for Carnacashel. Looking at the Northboard Championship then, results over the weekend. Junior Football Championship results there. So Williamstown 318, Athenry 38, Hepford 123, Ballinasloe 1-5. So Williamstown, who were relegated last year from the Intermediate Football Championship, they go straight into the Junior Northboard final, and then Hepford will play Killearn in a home Northboard semi-final there. So that's the way the Junior one championship is at the minute, and obviously the winners there of North and West will meet in a Junior Football Championship county final, and the winner of that will then go forward to represent Galway at Connacht Championship level in the Junior Football Championship. So that's the way it is there at the minute in the junior. We're just going to now take a look at the Junior 2 football championship, because of course with this in the Junior 2 and Junior 1 winners, they'll meet in a county final, and that's basically a county final to decide which team will go all the way up to the intermediate grade for the 2026 season. But the way it is at the minute in the Junior 2 is James's, they're playing Stairs on the 27th of September at 5 o'clock. That's a home quarter final for James's. And then Annadown, a day later on the 28th of September, they have a home quarter final to Mike Cullen. The two winners of those games will meet Stairs, or sorry, will meet Clare Galway and South Knocknacara in the Junior 2 county semi-finals, and they are both penciled in at the minute for the 11th of October. Those semi-finals, that's what they're penciled in at for Finland. Just as well, Down had a win over Caherlistrane in the Junior B county final. A big performance from Noel Burke by all accounts, awarded man of the match in that game. Down, after winning that, along with Caherlistrane, will go up to Junior A for next year. Uh, then in the Junior C county final, Clare Galway had a, win over Kilconly in the Junior C uh, championship final at the weekend, and in the Junior D, Tuam Stars had a win over Uachtar in the Junior D county final. So um, they will go up now to Junior C in that grade. But that's all. The results in the Junior Championship over the weekend. I'm now going to bring in Galway Under 20 football manager Kevin Johnson, and as I said, we're going to have a chat about the role. Kevin has obviously his manager with the Galway Under 20 footballers for next year, and we're going to review the club action and get Kevin's thoughts on the championship. Stephen Show, I'm delighted to be joined by Galway Under 20 football manager Kevin Johnson. First, we're going to talk about Kevin's new role, obviously, over the Galway Under 20s, and then we'll look at the club games over the weekend. First off, Kevin, congratulations on the new role. How's it been the last few weeks for you?
Thanks, Paul. Yeah. Oh no, look, absolutely delighted. It's a very different role for me now. I suppose I've been a long time in the club game, and to move into now the intercounty game, I'm really looking forward to it. And I suppose, look, the board has put their faith in me and the management team now. So yeah, just really looking forward to it and can't wait to get going, to be honest.
Did you feel like this was the right time for you with intercounty just to go into it? Because you've worked in Sligo, you've worked in Mayo, and we've seen you working with Caherlistrane over the last few years too.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would have always said in the past, whenever you get involved in a team, timing is really important. I had taken a break this year, and I suppose when Derek shut down in April, it would have been something that would have been on my mind from then even, and just to be involved and to go for it was, I made a decision around June, look, that I was interested in it, and spoke with a few people, and no, look, was delighted to have got it, and like, build on club experience. I have a lot of club experience now as well. So look, County Under 20 is a bit different. It's a much shorter timeline, and the players you're working with as well are all involved in different teams, whether it's a leaving cert student playing schools football, a first year playing fresher football in college, and also players playing Sigerson in second and third year. So like, it's a very wide net of players, but at the same time, it's a group of players that like just really would want to represent their county, and to work with the elite and best players in a county like Galway is just like, it's a privilege, to be honest with you. And yeah, look, really looking forward to it.
How was it putting your management team together? Because it's obviously going through the interview processes and everything with an intercounty job. There's obviously a lot more to it than going for club jobs.
Yeah, and massively, and that's why I suppose I spoke to different people at different times, and look, I would have been away Donald there, Ducky. Like, I mean, his experience is just absolutely massive. He's been involved in 5 All Ireland winning underage teams in Galway, managing 3 All Ireland finals, should I say, winning in 2020 with the Under 20s, and just his experience is just so invaluable to the likes of myself, going into this situation, I suppose, as the first time. So look, his experience was massive. To get him on board was just, look, I was delighted. Mike Comer, I've worked with Mike with Corofin for 3 years. We've built up a massive relationship there, and Mike's just one of the best coaches I've ever worked with. So look, really looking forward to getting back and working with Mike again. And then Cormac, has played at a high level. Him and Mike actually was part of the O2 winning All Ireland Under 21 team as well, so they would know each other very well as well. And Cormac, has coached Caherlistrane this year and was also involved in the development squads in Galway this year. So I just feel like we all bring something different. I've no doubt the 3 boys will challenge me a lot as well, and that's what I love, and that's the challenge at county level. So no, really looking forward to it. I feel there's a great mix of experience and kind of youth there as well in the management team. So no, look, just looking forward to it. I think yeah, we've got the balance right.
How good for you has it been to be able to rub things off Ducky? Because he's obviously been in this role with the under 20s previously.
Massive. I mean, his experience speaks for itself. His success rate speaks for itself. And, the one thing I will always say about Ducky is he wants to put Galway football first. And, just having him now in my ear and supporting this, and look, his man management skills are massive as well. So the players are going to really enjoy working with him again. And again, look, it's just someone like that to keep me on my toes as well. And just, as I said, it's a very difficult group because of all the different situations the players are in. It's the lifestyle of a leaving cert student and the lifestyle of a second year student in college is is extremely different. And I think because Donald has been there and he's worked with this age profile before, yeah, look, his experience will be brilliant for me.
Just with Mike Homer, you've obviously built quite a strong relationship then, from working in Kerfin in those 3 years, even with the coaching and the S&C that he's done, and we've seen him probably in nearly with Kerfin for the last decade. It's nearly strange in one sense not seeing him on the line this year with Kerfin.
Yeah, what Mike has been involved in, I think he's been the S&C coach in Corofin for over 15 years, through all those successful years and successful times. And, he's now grown into a football coaching role now as well, would have played at an awful high level at under 21 and Galway senior level. So Mike has a massive football background as well. So, that mix of experience with the S&C background and then the football background, he's just, a perfect coach. His technical and tactical coaching is just top drawer. So I think Mike will really love to work with this group. He actually did a bit with the minor team of this age profile as S&C coach, so he knows a lot of this particular group as well. So that's very beneficial as well.
How did you react yourself when you were told you were going to be Galway under-20 football manager?
I was delighted. It's just a privilege. People don't realize if you're given, the position to manage the next group of players that's coming through and to prepare them for senior football down the line, I mentioned it already, it's a massive privilege. I'm incredibly honoured to do it, and a county like Galway and the likes of Paul Bellew, Micheál Geraghty, Andy Kelly, and all the lads working with the board, just to put their faith in me is massive. And I see the work that's been going on in development squads. Dennis Garrett coaching and games manager. It's just unbelievable the work that goes in. And I've been fortunate to be involved in that for many years. And now to step up into an under-20 manager's role, look, I'm extremely excited, to be honest with you. And I think that energy, look, is really a massive part of this role.
For people who aren't aware, you're obviously a Sligo native, but you've been in Galway now for quite a while. Will you be claiming yourself now as a Galway man?
Look, I'm a long time in Galway now. I'm married to a Galway woman, and all the kids here, they play for Clare Galway now. I'm actually coaching Clare Galway under 8 boys and under 10 girls the last couple of years, and that I can definitely say that's a challenge in itself as well. But no, look, I'm teaching in Closhend and Salt Hill now, 23 years, and I've just love it here, built my life here, and just enjoying every minute of it.
There's a challenge when it comes to under-20 then, Kevin, because you obviously want to win as many games as you can, but you want to get that balance right of developing players and having them ready for senior football. Is that the big challenge, do you feel now?
Yes, yeah. There's a balance. It's a balancing act. I think always at this level is the big picture, which is developing the future, Galway senior footballers. You're part of that. You're trying to educate them. You're trying to, bridge the gap, because between minor and senior, there's a massive gap. And, we might only have 1-2 years working with this profile of players. So, the key thing is that you're trying to improve the standards all the time, raise the bar. I think the education side of it is absolutely massive. A lot of the off the pitch stuff is vital for this age. So I think for us it's just so important that we bridge that gap and allow them also express themselves, because Galway, there's no doubt there's talent within the county, and we want them to enjoy these couple of years, because when it does get to senior as well, it can become very serious very fast. And I think it's such a balancing act for us to try to make it very enjoyable, but also make it professional and ensure that these players get the right type of guidance. So yeah, look, it is important to development, but I believe winning is a massive part of development as well. It's 5 years now since Galway has won a Connacht under 20. This particular group of players hasn't won a minor level, they haven't won a school level, minor Connacht, should I say. So, some have won that All Ireland minor Connacht, All Ireland title 3 years ago. So it's just really important that like we go out, we want to win. There's no doubt about that. The competition is very condensed. You start around the middle of March. It's 4 Wednesday nights. We know that already. We'll be out the first 4 Wednesdays. We'll have a bye in round five. So those 4 Wednesdays is massive in terms of the development, because if you can build on that, get to a Connacht final, build on that, try to get to an All Ireland, a group can get tight and learn very, very fast. So look, that will be our aim, that will be our ambition, and no doubt when the players, when we get that down to our 30 or so players, they'll be very clear on what the expectations are and what we want to do from a competitive side, but also the big picture will also be part of our plan.
For a lot of people looking on, obviously there was disappointment last year when you look at it. I suppose Galway playing in that Connacht B final. A lot of people will feel that's not the grade Galway should be playing at when it comes to. Is that the thing now to get Galway back competing for Connacht titles? Because as you mentioned, it's been quite a while since we lifted an under 20 title at this grade.
Yeah, but things can go against you as well. I mentioned that it's such a condensed season that, you lose one or two players in those 3 or 4 Wednesday nights, it can be very difficult. So the idea is that you prepare as best you can. You go into the competition with the players in the best fitness and the best mental, way that you can. But at the same time, look, you can't judge an entire year on 1 or 2 games when potentially 1 or 2 of your top players might be injured for whatever reason. So, Galway were lucky last year. I mean, there was an injury to one of their best players, and if that player was playing, it could have been quite different, and you never know what could happen. So, look, you take it. Every year is different. Every year is unique. The big thing from our side is just to have the players conditioned, have them ready, have them mentally ready is a massive challenge at this age, because there's so much going on outside the football pitch in there in that age light. As I said, there could be a lad studying for his leaving cert one night, coming to you the following night, and then there could be a lad living in Limerick City in second year in college, which is a very different lifestyle. So it's important that we're aware of that, and that we put everything in place for these lads to just maximize their potential. That's really the best we can do. That's exactly what we want to do, and I've no doubt that the management team we've put together will be able to do that.
No doubt you're quite busy going to games at the minute. If you consider all the different grades, you could have some of these players playing at 17s, 19s, senior football, intermediate, and even junior. And you consider probably post-primary football starting soon as well. There's quite a lot of games you have to cover, I suppose, to see these players in action at their respective grades.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to games now the last couple of weeks very, very differently than I would have this time last year. I would have been going to games with a very different hat on. So look, I'm really enjoying it. I've been at under 19 games the last couple of weeks, senior and intermediate there the last few weekends. And look, you can see there's a really high standard here in Galway. The games this weekend was fantastic. I've no doubt that there's a high quality players. I think there's well over 30 players under 20 playing for their first teams, whether it's junior, intermediate, and senior, which is fantastic. The under 19 competition on the Wednesday nights in Galway is just brilliant. Every second week, and it's played off so well, and we're getting to now the West and North Board semi-finals at all levels. So we're going to look forward to going to a few games this Wednesday night as well. So going to games is a bit different. You're looking at individuals, but you're also trying to spread the net out as wide as possible, because, one thing I am always aware of from the club game, even that there are late developers, and, we'll be trying to identify them as well, because, some lads may not have made that under 17 and 18 grade, and, all of a sudden now 19 and 20, they can be a very different player. So, we'll have our eyes open, and we're talking to coaches all around the county, and I'm in the school business myself, and Donal is in the school business. So, we'll be involved in school football ourselves, and we'll be, we've a lot of contacts in that area as well. So no doubt, we will make sure that the entire county is looked at.
Just before we look at some of the club action, Kevin, on the Galway under 20s, obviously for 2026, if people were to ask you what the aim would be, what would you say it is?
Look, the aim is obviously to get back on top of Connacht. It's a round robin now, so they haven't actually won a Connacht title in this round robin series. Last time they won it, it would have been a knockout championship. So I think the group. We've Leitrim first. That will be at home. away then the following week against Mayo, home against Sligo, I think, and away to Roscommon. You want to go out and win those 4 games. It's 4 Wednesday nights in 3 weeks, so it's going to come down to those 3 weeks, having everyone fit, having everyone being injury free, and hopefully ready to go. But that's the challenge. There's so much that goes on before that, and what goes on before that will be down to trying to bridge the gap between senior and under 20, trying to educate these lads as best we can, and put the best support and resources in to allowing them just, I suppose, maximize their potential. That's number one aim. If every player, in the group hits their best, I've no doubt with the talent within the county, they'll do very well.
Great stuff, and we wish you very best of luck going forward next season with the Galway under 20s, and hopefully we can get back on top in Connacht there as well. Just from looking at the club action over the weekend, Kevin, the new rules and everything, a lot of controversy with some refereeing decisions for some clubs, and getting a lot of text over the weekend. And we're not going to go in depthly into reviewing referees' performances or anything, because it's a really hard task at the minute, particularly with the way the new game is. But this is the sort of controversy I think we're going to have throughout the next few weeks across Galway Club Championship at all the different grades.
Yeah, I think it's nationally, to be honest with you, because it's so new. We got a great insight into the new rules in the intercounty game. But now there's so much at stake. This weekend actually was the first weekend there was so much at stake. So every inch becomes a big deal. So no, look, it's a massive challenge because there are so many new rules. I would have been involved earlier in the year with facilitating workshops within the county in terms of the new rules. And we were out west, Chris Ryan led it, and then out in the north would have been Thomas Murphy, and just listening to them and the way they had come from the inter-county game. So they had been well, ahead of, I suppose, a lot of the club referees. And, it was just so much. I think, God, it was over 50 rules in total between, all the changes. So I think now that we're seeing a big consequence, because as I said, these are just inches. Like, there's teams training all year, that it's just extremely difficult, and you can see it all over. There was an incident in Mayo last week. There's incidents all in the north as well, and that's just the way it is, because it's going to take a while for these rules to, for everyone to get used to, players as well and management, because even managers and coaches don't all understand some of the new rules, and there's some stuff going on the lines as well that at the end of the day probably shouldn't as well. So I think it's just we need to really educate ourselves, get better at it, and I think it is happening, but it's it's difficult.
Yeah, it has been even gas seeing different lines roaring about the tree up, and linesmen and referees checking and everything,
And
and consult.
support
Yeah,
everyone is involved now, and that's, look, it's the nature and it's the excitement. And I suppose being a neutral, sometimes you're going to these games, it's quite enjoyable, but certainly, look, when you're training hard all year and everything, it's just these small calls are becoming massive calls, and it's going to continue, because that's the excitement that the new rules are bringing. And I think you just have to kind of sometimes move on with it. But yeah, it's difficult for everyone involved, especially the referee.
from being involved with a group, then can you understand the frustration with some management teams and players with with some decisions going against them? Then,
Yeah, but like, that's been going on. That's the nature of the game. That's the nature of
yeah.
invasion sports. Sometimes, we do let our emotions get to us, and when you're on the line and there's 2 or 3 minutes left, and the next score can put you into the next round or not. Like, all you want is to get back training on a Tuesday night. That's always all you ever want, and especially in knockout football. This weekend was the first knockout football. So, look, emotions has been in the game for years. There's nothing different there. I've been involved in games that calls has gone against me last year and previous years, and then all of a sudden you get the calls, and that's just the nature. You get some, you don't get some, and it's just about learning from them. And you can't dwell on it too much. It's just the way it is. There will be a winner at the end of the day, and throughout a full 60, 70 minutes, there's always calls that should have got went for you and calls that didn't. And look, it is the nature of the game.
From looking at the four senior preliminary quarterfinals we had over the weekend, and conditions were very tough yesterday as well, with the rain in Tube Stadium and even the breeze in Pier Stadium. I thought it was four cracking senior preliminary quarterfinals we had over the weekend.
Yeah, and four evenly balanced teams. Like going in, it was extremely hard to pick the four winners. Would have been extremely hard to get all four right, and that's what it brought up. You saw an extra time. One game go to extra time. You saw two other games won by a point, and then obviously St James's won well against Milltown. But no, overall, like brilliant cracker games. Those teams now are going into the quarterfinals with a win behind them. They'll really look forward now to the challenge of playing. I suppose the four teams atop the group. So yeah, it's we're in for a massive couple of weeks.
If we look at Uachtar and Claregalway first, Matthew Tierney's penalty, huge there towards the end, and it really just proved to be the difference between the sides as Uachtar hung on for a 116 to 211 victory over Claregalway. The last two games, Uachtar, they probably haven't played as well as they would have liked, but the character to get through Montbellew and now get through Claregalway has to be massive for them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they'll be absolutely delighted with the draw against the neighbours as well. Mike Cullen, like the manager, Jeremy Leader, will be from Mike Cullen, so we'll
Mm.
know the group inside out. He's a teacher there in St Paul's in Uachtar, so like. The reality there is Uachtar is a team that will always get better. They play with a lot of confidence as they go through championships. When I was with Corofin, we played them 3 years on the trot in the round robin or in the group stages. So like they would have given us a big game every single time. And, I would always say it's only a matter of time that, that team can easily get to a semi final. So I think they will definitely have their eyes on Mike Cullen. They'll be hard. They'll be hard to beat now. They're very well organised, and they have that little bit of class with the likes of Matthew Tierney, the Monaghan brothers. That bit of class is always something that when you get to this stage of the championship, if they're all fit, they will be hard. They will be hard beat, and they'll be absolutely delighted with that win against Claregalway because 2 points down going into injury to 3 minutes into injury time, they would have felt the need of something special. They got the penalty, and now they're in a quarter final against their closest and local rivals.
Yeah, we've seen even against Montpellier, we've seen the influence of Eric Lee coming back, and we've seen it again. He's a huge addition for them, isn't he?
Yeah, because he would have missed last year. And I remember when we played him in the first round, he was a massive loss, but he was always a talent. I actually would have had Eric at underage in Galway years ago. I mean, he would have really stood out. But just again in the Matthew Tierney, like he's really looks like a player that's enjoying the club campaign at the moment. I saw him play there 2 weeks ago, and just look, he's just a top player, and he will be very hard, marked the next day because I would expect Matthew to really lead the line for Uachtar going into that Mike Cullen game.
Yeah, some finished by the penalty to win it too,
Yeah,
for him. But no surprises at all there when you consider Matthew Tierney's performances. Because even when I was looking as that game went on, when they're 5 points down, it was I know with the new rules and everything, but it was looking like maybe it was going to be Clare Galway's day. But to still grind that out has to be the biggest positive of all.
Oh yeah, and they'll go into Tuesday now, and they'll be absolutely delighted with that. And that's where you are now in championships. On days like yesterday and on Saturday, it's all about the grind. It's about making sure you do the basics right, and you win that game by a point, 2 points. It doesn't even matter. You just win that game. That's what it's about. And they did grind it out, and they'll be delighted with that. It's two games in a row they've done that, but at the same time, they will know that Mike Cullen will be a different beast. They're one of the top teams in Galway the last 4 or 5 years, and they have incredible experience. So, like, they will probably, feel that there's more in them. And I think to beat Mike Cullen, they will have to, up their game another, probably 5-10%.
You mentioned earlier on, Kevin, you're obviously involved in Clare Galway at underage level. A lot of people look and they might say it's a disappointing year for Clare Galway, but I probably disagree. When you consider everything they lost at the start of the year, there was a change of management during the year, and they might feel like they left this one after them, but I think there's some real positives that they can cling on to now.
Yeah, look, Clare Galway, there's always an expectation there, especially I suppose with the underage being so successful. But the reality now is what I can see is that a lot of these underage players, that there would have been a lot of talk about now are all getting a little bit older all the time. And I think the likes of, Connor Campbell and Jack Lynn really led the team this year. And I think they're really starting to, I suppose, gain that experience that Clare Galway really needs. So I think going forward, the younger lads like Jack Lonigan, the likes of Ryan Monaghan from the under 20 this year, and surround them with a Conor Flaherty there as well, has great experience. I think, yeah, look, they're definitely a team to watch for the future. They don't have to get an awful lot more right. I think they will be extremely disappointed with the way the game finished the last day, and that can be understandable at times. And I just think they need to just build on the build this winter. But they're definitely got the player personnel. They've got some lovely talent in the club, and there's some brilliant talent coming as well. So no, they'll the future is definitely bright, and I think I've no doubt Clare in the next year or two will be pushing to get to quarter semi-finals and further.
Jack Mullen, really impressive championship campaign this year for them too. Probably a player that came under the radar. I know he was a Galway under 20
Mm.
previously this year, if I'm not wrong there. But they lost Granger, they lost Goldrick, they lost Rowan, and I
Yeah.
thought Jack Mullen really thrived in that role.
And that's it. And you mentioned the loss of the likes of Barry and the likes of those lads missing. Like they're massive losses, because I suppose Nathan and Barry would have been the two main forwards last year. We would have played them in the second round of the championship, and I remember the problems Barry McGoldrick would have caused. But no, look, Jack, he's a tall guy. They seem to try to get him in the game all the time. They're always playing the heads up, trying to get him in the game. And look, he's very accurate, and he's a great kicker of the ball. So no, look, he's definitely one for the future. Um, you know, Winner the boys, I've no doubt, probably will be back in the next couple of years anyway. Like, that forward line will be will be fairly impressive, with everyone back in the country and fit to play.
You mentioned obviously Uachtar now wanting to have a crack off Mike Cullen. I'd even go back as far as that quarter final last year. They played them in the exact same stage. Had Mike Cullen on the racks up to the last 5 minutes, and Mike Cullen just took control of that one at the end.
Yeah, and that's what Dr. I will do. It's just the last 5-10 minutes sometimes they can run out of steam, and especially against the very experienced teams. Against Corofin in the first round last year, something very similar. So it's just about getting within is one thing, but then seeing it out as another. And when you're playing the big teams, it can be very difficult, because you have the experience of Sean Kelly, you have the experience of, Paul Kelly, and all the Mike Cullen team. I can name a lot more. So I think for Uachtar, they have to get into that position first of all, and if they're in it, they just have to just go all out. Have no regrets. And if they go and do that, yeah, definitely, they have the potential to cause an upset.
Yeah, that's a nice tie now for Uachtar to set up there with their neighbours, Mike Cullen. Looking at the three quarterfinals then yesterday, first one, Nivana Lechamore 4-8, Dunmore MacHales 118. After extra time, Dunmore MacHales get out of jail in one sense after their start, but then to kick, I suppose, 19 scores, 12 they were, fully deserving winners here, but. Leicester Moore's start really impressive with the goals they got, and Dunmore MacHales, it looked like they had won it a few times, but Leicester Moore again just coming back at them every time.
Oh yeah, like what a game for goals. 11 points up at half time. I think Lettermore would have felt they're in, what a position. I think we've seen now already, that's two games this weekend that both teams, Montpellier and Lettermore, were 11 points up at half time, and both ended up losing. And I think that's the way the new rules kind of are in play, especially in places like Pear Stadium. But look, the goals usually, like 4 goals, that would win a game most games. But I think now, because of the 2 pointers and because of wind conditions, just Dunmore came back in that second half, scored 111, 111 to 3 points in the second half, and two of those Lettermore points were in the last two plays of the game. So Dunmore will absolutely be delighted. And again, what a draw for them. They're now going to be playing Corofin, which is Gary Delaney, their former manager's team. So that will be exciting in itself. But look, that's what Dunmore wants. They were unlucky in the quarter final last year. So they will be, love to get the chance to play now against the county champions.
When you look at Leicester Moore's three goals and the way they created them, it was fantastic. But will that be worrying for Dunmore heading in now to the juggernaut that is Caherlistrane?
Ah, yeah, look, but it's a work on, isn't it? It's very unusual for a team to concede 4 goals like that. They're an organised team. They've got some good defenders and then the county goalkeeper as well. So, no, they'll look back, they'll work on that, and I've no doubt that that will be a big work on for the 2 weeks. But overall, the 111 in the second half, that will be very pleasing. The backs were against the wall, and to come out and do that, they were going to be out of the championship, and it was a massive comeback. And then to concede the last 2 scores and go in and still win in extra time shows a lot of character. So I think Dunmore will be delighted. They're exactly where they wanted to be, back in the quarter final, and now they'll feel they have a great chance.
Oshie McDonagh goes for a goal in extra time. Conor Gleeson saves, Dunmore go down, and they get 2 points. Casey O'Cally then has the chance to win it going through, and Conor Gleeson again saves. Like, they were two crucial saves, and you probably seen them late too, the way they were with Lettermore attacking towards the end.
Yeah, and they're the inches, but fair play, Letchmore went for it, and that's the kind of no regrets. There were goal opportunities to win for it. Connor is a big man, and he's the county senior keeper for a reason. So no, look, Letchmore will be, they'd be reasonably pleased with the year. They would have loved to got to a county quarter final, but I think to go 11 points up, to concede the 111 in the second half and only score 3, and as I said, 2 of them in injury time, they will be a bit disappointed, because sometimes a score now against the wind is as good as 2 or 3 these days. So, they'll probably be disappointed with that second half performance. But no, had the chances to win it. And again, Dunmore will feel now they've nothing to lose.
Will Lettermore be disappointed in one sense? I was even looking at the score, and for long periods of that game, they were on 3-2. Like, when you consider this to Dunmore MacHale's greater spread of scores.
Well, they will, but like, don't forget, like, from being 11 points up, they went 2 down. So, they were 2 down in injury time, and to be honest, they looked out. So to come back again with the character and get those last 2 scores, that showed that there's real character in that team. It is Alan Murphy's first year, so he will probably look at a lot to build on there. They will be disappointed, but anyone that loses the way, in extra time, like, you'll be very disappointed, because there was very little between the teams.
Dennis Fallon and Dunmore MacHales then will have to be delighted, because they had it back to 6 right before the break, and then Lettermore get another goal, and it's out to 9. And at that stage, I think Dunmore MacHales, you're still concerned, because we've seen, I suppose, how effective this Lettermore defensive system is. But then you look at it in that second half, Matthew Reddington running from deep, the Costellos, Jake Slattery, Brendan Carr, Shane Mitchell all getting scores, and that's where he'll have to be happy.
Ah, yeah, they will. Matthew Reddington has been brilliant all championship for them. And then obviously Porrick and Colin Costello like, so. No, Dunmore, look, they have players that cause problems, and they have players that will cause Corofin problems as well. But the thing about Dunmore is, it's again the game management, how they will, build on that second half performance. Especially, they'll have to really zone in on that, and then use every strength they have against Corofin, because we'll take that. But at the same time, they'll feel they've nothing to lose, and it's what a challenge against the county champions, and that's exactly where they want to be. The target issue will be quarter final minimum, and now this is a fantastic opportunity now for them.
It was fascinating to hear Conor Gleeson in the interview after the match. He was saying we probably should have sat back with a +1, as when Lettermore got the ball, they just had numbers and bodies everywhere with the way they drive forward. But that's obviously a learning now that they
Yep.
can work on over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and conditions, as we can see now, especially in Pearse Stadium, seems to have such an impact on the game. But look, I expect the Dunmore Corofin game to be in Shoon Stadium. So look, conditions in 2 weeks could be very different. But at the moment, with the way conditions are, and the wind is such a big factor, I think, yeah, it will be tactics are playing a massive part in who comes out winning these games.
We're kind of all thinking the big four will get through to the semi-final at the minute. They're strong favourites in their quarterfinals. And the big four have that strength and depth, and there's no question about it. But with these teams this weekend, like a lot of these teams that came through right battles, and it's a 2 week turnaround. Are they at not a slight advantage, but they have that momentum going into the quarterfinal now compared to your Kerfins, Saltills, Mike Collins, and Chim who've been off for 4 weeks now?
Yep. It's this hasn't happened in Galway before. There's never been a 4 week break. Last year there was only 2 week break between the round three and the quarterfinals, and in the middle of that there would have been the pre-quarter. So the pre-quarter teams would have had to play 3 games in 2 weeks, and that would have been extremely difficult. So this is the first time. So we don't really have previous seasons to go on. Personally, I would want to just go top my group, get into that quarterfinal. I think the experience of Corofin, the experience of Tuam, Mike Cullen, Salt Hill will stand to them. I think they would have probably targeted the 4 week break early on in the year. So it's very possible to have challenges lined up, which can be difficult because of other counties having different teams going different times, and you can sometimes wonder if you're undercooked or not because there's nothing like championship football. But I think those 4 teams are very experienced. I think they'll have, aimed to top their groups, known a long time out that if we top a group, we're going to have 4 weeks and would have planned for that. I think the 4 winners of the weekend will have all the momentum, all right. But, they will all have to up their game to beat that top 4, because the reality is that, Tuam, Stars, Corofin, Mike Cullen and Salt Hill Knocknacarra, they would have been your top teams at the start of the championship, and to me they still are. But I think they could. I wouldn't be surprised with a shock in 2 weeks' time, because these 4 teams left, St James's, Dunmore MacHales, Clannan and Uachtarard, they've all very good players. They've all very good management teams. They're all going to be very well organised, and they have massive momentum behind them after the weekend.
Is it hard to get to that level in 2 weeks?
For which team? No,
For the teams coming to the prelim to get to the level of Kerfin, Tuam
no,
Stars, Salt Hill Knocknacarra.
no. We went into a quarterfinal last year against Clannan. Clannan had played, 2 games in 10 days. We felt well prepared and awful conditions in Pearse Stadium. Clannan really went for it, and we struggled at times and came out of that game just about, and we were delighted, because that's what the grind is. You just want to get out of that game. A quarterfinal is there to be won. So I don't think Clannan won't fare anyone. Uachtarard won't. Dunmore MacHales won't. St James's won't. So there's a derby there. Obviously Uachtarard, Mike Cullen, but the St James's Salt Hill derby as well. They will absolutely cherish going into this quarterfinal. St James's will love the chance to take on Salt Hill Knocknacarra. Dunmore will love the chance to take on the county champions Corofin. Clannan will love the chance to take on Tuam, and then obviously the last one there, Mike Cullen and Uachtarard. So no, look, the gap can be bridged very, very fast.
Doesn't it just show from the weekend, even with the new game, how important the basics are this time of year?
Yeah, it's all down to basics, and getting your matchups right, and also, playing to the strengths of the new rules. The teams that's really going for it, you can see, they've been coached really well, and they're adapting to these new rules really well as well. It's not a time now the mass defense days are gone, and I think teams that are really trying to learn more about the new rules and really go for it, they're getting the rewards. So look, the basics, you can never beat them, especially days like the last 2 days.
St James's 117 and Milltown 111. St James's really seem to be building in the right direction this year.
Yeah, they really are, and they've been building the last few years. They've now got real intercounty experience. Paul Conroy is, he just led the line. Sam O'Neill was taken off maybe after 20 minutes. His knee was well bandaged. It looked, his body language, even I was at that game, I don't know how serious that is. They will need him against Salt Hill Knocknacarra. He's a big player for them. I was really impressed with Owen Finnerty. I would have thought Owen actually a few years ago, and he went on Liam Costello there, did a really good job on Liam, and Jack Nolan kicked some, he kicked a beauty, a 2-pointer at one stage. So they've lovely players. St James's, really good management team that's really experienced as well. So St James's definitely won't fear Salthill Knocknacarra, and they'll really, to me, one of the best performances of the weekend actually.
I thought Keane Costello's kickouts for St James's in that game in particular, the couple of kickouts he got over that Milltown press and into Conroy, like there were moves that really worked for James's.
Yeah, because they're utilising their strengths. I mean, when you have a player like Paul Conroy in your club, he's your target man. But they've also the two O'Neill brothers, which are big men as well. So he can vary that. But no, St James's, you can see they've a lot of work done. They're extremely well organised, and as I said, look, what a challenge now, John Maher against Paul Conroy in a couple of weeks' time. That will be one to watch.
Yeah, and even they got Johnny Duane back. It was the first time we seen him back all year with Dale Masters, and did really well in the half back line. But even under transition, there was one stage Paul Conroy was giving the ball ahead of Daniel McNulty, and I think it was where people really realised the pace of Daniel McNulty to get ahead of the ball at that stage against Milltown. And Joanna Quilligan too was a player who's really impressed throughout the club championship, and as you mentioned, Jack Nolan. They're finding forwards too. Brian Kane yesterday as well. 1-2 he finished up with.
Yeah, again, there's some lovely players, and they've been building now. They're at a really good age profile, a lot of these players. So, like Paul, no doubt, like training with Paul Conroy every Tuesday, every Friday, like is really, bringing on the rest of them, because, like, what better role model to have within a club. And no, look, they've some really good underage players coming through. And I think, yes, St James's will feel, if there's going to be a shock in 2 weeks' time, they're the team to do it.
Even at half time when they're down 8-6, Milltown are a tough team to beat in Toom Stadium, as you've seen. Remember back to the county semi final where you played them and they came storming back into it. They're a tough nut, Milltown to crack, but I think it showed a level of maturity from James's in that second half.
Yeah, look, 2 points down. They had the breeze in the second half, although the breeze was dying down at one stage. But to score 111, Milltown only got 3 points and in the penalty at the very end. So, it was 111 there to 3 points for, that 30 plus minutes. They'll be, again, delighted with that. That was a big, big score to put up. And as I said, the wind had died down a little bit, so they would have been quite happy to really just push on. They looked very sharp. That's the one thing. So, yeah, like 1-7 to 111 to 1-3 there in that second half was a big score.
Milltown probably be disappointed in one sense with the way the last two games have gone, but Mike Martin, once again, what a championship he's had, 1-7 yesterday.
Yeah, and the two, I think the biggest disappointment for Milltown will be probably the first half. They probably
Mm.
would have liked to get a few more 2 pointers, especially because of the likes of James Kavanagh, the likes of Mike Martin on the team. They can really kick the ball, from distance. And I think going in at half time with only 8 scores, they would have loved to probably, hit that 12, 13, 14 mark, because that's probably the disappointment from them, because it was a strong breeze in the first half. But look, Mike Martin has had another good year championship. They drew with Corofin in the group stages. Liam Costello, the likes of Owen Mannion was very dangerous looking as well. So look, they've again some really good young players coming through as well. So Milltown will, go back through in the winter now and just, try to find another one or two players. And again, I've no doubt they'll be competitive again in future years.
Just a word on James Kavanagh. He set up two scores. There was two assists. I think he had back to back. One was for a free, and then he set up the Mannion score. 41 to still be doing it at midfield.
Yeah, look, and I think he got the first 2 points of the day as well, But again, an awful experienced player, will be a role model within the dressing room. The younger players will look up to the likes of him. So having the likes of him around is only a positive thing. So, Milltown will certainly want to, try to get another few younger players coming through. But I think the likes of O'Mani and Liam Coster, these lads, they'll be there for a while to come. And yeah, look, I thought they were impressive yesterday.
Looking at the last preliminary quarterfinal, it's probably the one that's been highlighted most today in the national media. Barry McHugh doesn't get the free at the end. He reacts to a couple of the Killannon players. He gets sent off towards the end. Um, Owen Finnerty and Killan and Waterboy then get involved on the line throughout the game. They're not really scenes you want to see throughout the championship, Kevin.
I know, but it's an emotional game and we all have emotions. So, no, look, I think the story of the game was Montpellier going 11 points up at half time. They would have been awful disappointed to give that up. They're a very experienced team. They would have the player personnel that should be able to see that out, and I think to not win the game in a very winnable position will be the biggest disappointment from Montpellier Mylock. What was the score? 112.
112 to 1-1.
Yeah, 112 to 1-1 at half time. A goal and a 2-pointer in injury time of the first half. So they would have been going in with their tails up. Like they would have had all the momentum going for them. They were in a very winnable position with about 8-9 minutes to go as well. And I think that last 5-10 minutes just it became a bit chaotic, and that's what the new rules will do. But no, look, they'll be extremely disappointed with the way the championship finished. Clannon on the other side will be absolutely delighted. Their big players stood up in that last 5-10 minutes, especially Johnny Heaney, Patrick Sweeney, and to do it all without Cathal Sweeney as well, who's been out all year. To get into a quarter final now, Clannon, they just fear no one. They gave Corofin everything. They asked a lot of questions of Corofin last year in that quarter final. So to be back in that now, they're going to ask some questions at Hume, and they again will feel they have absolutely nothing to lose. A brilliant experience set up as well there. So, Gay O'Brien and Kevin Walsh, like what better lads to get a team up and ready.
From seeing Killannon last year and seeing how Keane Marks, Brian Mitchell, Darrell Walsh, Ryan Roach, these fellas have developed, is there even something going back to last year you could see that these were a terrific bunch? Obviously, they are backbone by that 19s team a couple of years ago that did win that title for them.
Yeah, and I think the likes of Tara Walsh now and Ryan Roach, they're leading the line now for Clannon. They're the youth that every club wants to see coming through. Like two really big men around the middle, and they have a clear tactic that they're key target men, especially with the new rules, and especially when an opposition tries to press, they're great lads to be able to get you out of trouble. I think though the bit of class Johnny Heaney I thought was excellent. Like Johnny really, showed his showed us the senior status. And Patrick Sweeney, I think, to set up the goal the way he did at the end of Vision
Oh,
was
what a
just
pass.
absolutely brilliant. That head up, it was just absolutely perfect. And yeah, they still have just that bit of experience. And Clannon will always, they will always be able to, I suppose, grind these games out. They'd never give up. They'll be going in with a lot of momentum now for the next 2 weeks.
Killannon will probably look at two games. The Montpellier game, trailing by 11, came back. The
Yeah.
same against James's the first day. That's probably is the work on when you look at it. It's two games they've started slow and they came back and they know they can come back, but it's not something they can afford to do
Yeah.
against Tombstairs.
Yeah, they're inconsistent in games at times. Like the last 5 minutes of the half, they're just completely seemed, the game was over. Montpellier, my luck was so strong in that particular 5-10 minutes, and they went at it. And Clannon were just a little bit, I suppose, they needed half time to come. But again, in the second half, to come out, they never gave up. They showed massive character, and they're in a quarter final now, which is fair play to them.
As you mentioned, Johnny Heaney, he's just thrived in this six role this year for Killannon since he's come back with Galway.
Yeah, and the new rules are suiting him as well. But his kicking as well was brilliant. And no, look, Johnny he's just massive experience, and you put those younger players around him. Johnny will run all day, and he's incredibly hard to mark, and especially no matter who you put on him, Johnny has the legs. So no, look, he's really enjoying his football. They'll be delighted now with going into this Tune game, and yeah, they'll. Yeah, look, they're very pleased with yesterday's result.
As you mentioned, it's disappointing for Montpellier Law considering the position they're obviously in there, but some of the scores John Daly kicked in that first half, with the breeze in his favour, but still very difficult scores to pull off.
Yeah, like they've brilliant kickers. And Montpellier Mylock, I suppose with the return of a few players this year, would have really, targeted quarterfinal, semi-final, and build on that. They're an extremely proud club. The loss of Owen Finnerty was big. I would have saw that 2 weeks ago, like him coming off so early, and like it's very hard to replace players like Owen and his experience. And I think, they would have loved to got through yesterday, give Owen another 2 weeks to maybe, get himself right. And I think that's where they'll have their regrets. But look, there was a chance, to equalise, to get to equalise just before that free, that so-called free at the end, and that they'll be disappointed that they didn't probably get the equaliser and put the game to extra time. And look, there'll be a disappointing winter now for them because they have some brilliant players.
Yeah, quarterfinals, as we mentioned, 2 weeks' time. So, Stairs, Killannon, obviously, there, as we mentioned, Mike Cullen, Uachtar, Kerpin, Dunmore MacHales, and Salt Tilloch and Cara James's. Who would you be picking as your winner, Kevin?
Look, I mean, the winner outright.
Yeah,
Oh, look, um, I don't like. There's so much games to play at the moment. Like, there's so much happening. I think Corofin, their strength and depth is massive, and they're just an absolutely look. I had just a pleasure 3 years to work with them. I know exactly what they're about, and they love this time of year. The whole year comes down to into September, October. They're going to love it. They're going to love these training sessions. The in-house games will be, brilliant. And I've no doubt Gary, will have them prepared. He'll know Dunmore MacHales inside out. So, it's a, intriguing challenge for Gary personally as well. But no, Corofin will be well primed. I've no doubt about that. I still think Salthill and Cara has to find their best form. If that happens, they're going to be extremely hard beat. There's brilliant players on that team. Brilliant management team as well. Extreme experience. So they'll sometimes form starting in quarterfinal isn't a bad thing either, by the way. So form starting in the semi-final is all right too. So no, Salthill Knocknacarra won't be panicking at all yet. Mike Cullen, I think the loss of Owen Gallagher was massive. I think the last 5-6 years Owen has been such a driving force for them. To me, probably the best line breaker in Galway, club football, and he's just so hard to replace. They've found a few really good younger players. They will want to get out of this Uachtar game, and they won't fear anyone. And then obviously Stars have been very impressive. They've had a few injuries though, and I think again the injuries they have are with some of their bigger players. So possibly one or two of them might be back come the next day. And if they are, they'll want everyone fit going into Clannon. So I still think the those 4 teams will come through the quarterfinals. Will be an intriguing semi-finals. I think all 4, will see themselves as winning the Frank Fox. But at the moment, look, Corofin are still, they're going for 3 in a row. An absolute brilliant club, brilliant people involved, and look, they won't be listening to what I'm saying anyway. But look, they know exactly what they're about, and they're very experienced at this stage.
it just is a thing. I know, chatting to one or two might be saying Kerflin aren't going as well as previous years, but I don't think they've had to yet. Is the big thing there. But even if they were to be beaten, it's going to take a hell of a team to beat
I,
Kerflin this year.
Yeah, because they do things the right way. They play the game in the right spirit. They're professional at everything they do, and that's what they do. And I just had the pleasure to be involved for 3 years, and before me they were winning games, and after me they'll be winning games, and that's the way they do things. They're just a brilliant club, and like they've brought all of football to a top level, and that's why they've raised the bar all over. And the other clubs as one there, Mike Cullen, like Mountbellew, Mylock, they all raised the bar as well, and that's what Corofin has done for the county, which is it's just brilliant.
Talking about the relegation games yesterday in the relegation semi-finals, we now know it's going to be Michaels versus Berner in the relegation final in senior. But what drama in Hefford yesterday at 12 o'clock with Monavea Abbey and Berna going all the way to penalties. Dennis Farrer pulling off the save to win the game for Monavea Abbey 4-3 on penalties.
Yeah, an awful way to lose, to be honest with you. Nothing between the teams. intriguing, to be honest with you, and exciting, and it had everything, conditions, and on a club pitch as well. That look, it was just down to the wire. Barna will be, they'll feel awful disappointed. I heard they played really well. I wasn't at that game. It was probably their best performance of the year. Monivea Abbey, after the way the championship started for them against Corofin, will be absolutely delighted to retain their senior status. Fair play to them, because when the backs are against the wall, they never give up. There was a stage there at halftime, they come out at halftime. I think it was 7 down at one stage, but no, they just kept fighting. And look at them now. They've retained their senior status. Build on that. They've some really good players. Killian, I think, really stood up as well as
Yeah.
as your inter-county player, and that's what you want from them. Barna, look, they've another day out. Penalties would have been extremely harsh to relegate a team, to be honest. So look, to have another opportunity now, and they'll be looking at St. Michael's and targeting that game now in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, even with Killian yesterday, just hearing reports, some of the scores he got were out of this world, and he really has had a impressive championship game for Monivea Abbey. But heartbreak there, as you mentioned, for Berna, and they obviously go in now to play Michael's 2 weeks' time in that relegation final. For Anna Down, I just think it shows the value of having Damien Comer back on the pitch. Two 2 pointers he gets. Frankie Burke gets 8 points. It gives that support, I suppose, for Frankie in attack. And thankfully, Anna Down safe as I'm saying this.
Oh yeah, and Down will be delighted as well, because no one wants to be in a relegation final, and conditions could be awful, and it's going to come down to inches. And look, I was at that game. I thought St. Michael's played very well. Again, probably their best performance of the year. They had all their probably main players all back. They've been unlucky all year with lads away and lads injured. So St. Michael's the last day, at one stage looked very comfortable. I think it was 6 points up, and they looked like they were going to win it. And then I suppose those couple of 2 pointers in the second half from Damien really kind of gave Anna Down hope. And then they just kind of got the momentum. Were very aggressive in the last 10 minutes on the kick out as well. And I think it was a lucky, fortunate goal in the end. But they won't care. Look, they've retained their senior status. Again, a lot to build on. Some really good under-19s coming through as well. They're look, Anna Down will be delighted to be senior again.
Yeah, it's difficult now for Bernard Michaels, isn't it? No one wants to be heading into this relegation final, and it's a huge 2 weeks, I suppose, in the build up now to a relegation final coming.
Yeah, two teams that will know each other very well as well. It's extremely hard to call. Look, it's not a nice place to be. But at the end of the day, look, someone has to go down every year. But no, both teams will be very hopeful that they can win that game. It will be an intriguing game now. Nothing between the two teams, and it's going to come down to just very, very small margins. And look, 2 weeks' time will have a lot to, being injury free as well is going to be massive. Like making sure both teams have their best personnel playing is a big thing in a game like that. So yeah, that will be a big game.
Looking at the intermediate side of things, then Kevin, so the draws being made for the intermediate football championship quarterfinals. So the draw is as follows: Illinois and Caltra, Kilkerran, Clonberne, Kerfinby, on Splidale, Cortoon Shamrocks, and Brendan's Caherlistrane. If you look first at Caherlistrane, 9 points, Kilconly 1-4. It was a bit of an upset here, it's safe to say. Kilconly probably would have tipped to win this one. Caherlistrane, it was a difficult group campaign for them, but in fairness, fair play to them. Like, they showed character. It was a heavy defeat. They were coming into this one on the back of a heavy defeat to Ireland in the group.
Yeah. Look, I think looking at the results all over, it's hard to call now. This is going to be one of the hardest ones to call. Looking at the championship, the way it's worked out, Aaron against Caltra, I think Caltra, again, they have a few really good young players. They'll be delighted with the way they performed the last day. Like, they'll be delighted. They're kind of getting better as the championship is going on. And that's a team, they've had the experience and the hurt of losing last year. So they're a team that, will look to the draw now Iron Islands in the next round. They'll want to be getting to the semi final. Um, and I think that win will really give them confidence, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, just on Caherlistrane there and Kilconly, as I mentioned, nine points to 1-4. I just thought for Caherlistrane, probably are a different team with Alan Morris back. He's had a difficult 12 months and with Cruciate, but really added something for them in attack.
Yeah, it was a low scoring. I went to that game.
Yeah.
Um, it was very low scoring. Kilconly will be disappointed. They had some good chances, and then they had a sending off, with their best player. So I think that really changed the game. But Caherlistrane, look, there was a big 2-pointer at the end from Shane Graney, and look, they'll be delighted. Again, the championship didn't start off great for them, but now they're starting to get momentum. Again, well coached. So they'll go in as well, St. Brendan's next round. So, no, Caherlistrane, they have the experience, like they would have been relegated from senior last year. So they'll be a team that will want to get back up as fast as possible as well. So, no, it was a big win because, again, it was a real dogfight now, that game. There was nothing between the both teams.
Looking at the most convincing win over the weekend in the Intermediate Championship, Kerfin B 6-18, Glenamaddie 110. Even from chatting to you off air, I don't think this is a surprise for you how good Kerfin B have been this year.
No, I just, I be fully aware of the personnel that have coming through. There's some really, really good young players, under 20s, under 19s, but then they have a lovely blend of older players in there as well, the likes of Barry O'Donovan and those lads that are, they've been around the block, and 6-18 is a massive scoreline. I know Glenamaddie were probably missing a few players as well. But yeah, it's a big score. They'll fear no one. It also helps with the senior team not playing this weekend, so like they would have had, everyone available to them that would have been eligible. And now 2 weeks time, will be their challenge. Curran Clomber will be a different animal though. And but they'll be primed. Yeah, look, they'll aim to try to get back to the semi-final. They were there 3 years ago as well. So yeah, look, they're big scoreline, some really good young players coming through there as well. So they'll be delighted and they'll be growing with confidence.
Yeah, Finn McIntyre with 3-3 over the weekend, and he's been such a consistent performer for Kerfin when you look at them throughout the championship. Corton Shamrocks then 2-14, Menlo 13 points. Corton Shamrocks just have a lot of experience, and they probably are starting to be a potential dark horse now for this championship.
Yeah. And again, their bigger players are all back. Adrian Varley there is pulling on a lot of the strings, and he seems to just really enjoying his
Mm.
football. So yeah, look, they're in a great place, playing on Spiddle the next day. Like, yeah, that's going to be a really good game. There's going to be very little between those two teams, but no, they'll be delighted to get out of that pre-quarter into a quarter, and yeah, look, I would give them every chance.
Just finally, Kevin, we've mentioned it a few times throughout the pod over the last few weeks, but this intermediate championship now, like as you mentioned there, it's just so hard to call.
Yeah, it's so open. And like any of those 8 teams at the end there, like, like they're all so hungry. And obviously Corofin B is a bit unique in that sense. But they're hungry too because they're trying to impress the senior manager, all the time, and they'll be training with the seniors, and they'll be marking some of the big senior players at training. So like they're going to be like chomping as well for the next game. So look, it's a brilliant championship. Nothing between the teams. I think now that Galway football has gone down to 16 senior teams and 16 intermediate teams. It's made the intermediate a lot more competitive. It's made it, a lot more enjoyable as well because there's so many teams that can go up. It's so hard to, like, if you do go down, it's so hard to go back up, especially straight away. So, yeah, look, that's going to be some brilliant games there. Brilliant championship. It was a brilliant weekend of football. And I think 2 weeks' time is just, yeah, everyone is fairly excited about it.
For sure. Great stuff, Kevin. Thanks very much for coming on to this week's podcast. And again, best of luck with the under 20s next year.
Thanks a million, Paul.